In the discipline of information theory, there is a fundamental concept known as the signal-to-noise ratio. The signal is the meaningful information, the truth that helps you navigate toward your goal. The noise is everything else, the distractions, the marketing, and the societal pressures that cloud your judgment. As we stand in 2026, the global economy has become a symphony of noise. We are told that more is better, that debt is a lifestyle tool, and that complexity is a sign of sophistication. However, as a rational analyst, I must tell you that the path to true wealth is found in the opposite: precision through minimalism. Minimalism, in a financial context, is not a philosophy of deprivation or living like a monk. It is the ruthless eradication of the non-essential so that your capital can focus on what actually produces value. Most people are drowning in financial noise, multiple credit cards, unused subscriptions, and impulse purchases that provide 5 seconds of dopamine followed by years of depreciating value. They are house poor, car poor, and status poor. Despite earning high incomes, they have a high volume of activity, but zero velocity of capital. To build a fortune that lasts, we must apply first-order versus second-order thinking. The first-order thinker asks, how can I make more money to buy more things? The second-order thinker asks, how can I reduce my friction so that every dollar I earn has the maximum compounding effect? Wealth is the quiet margin between your income and your ego. If you can master the 20 rules of financial minimalism we are about to discuss, you are not just saving money, you are increasing the structural integrity of your life, ensuring that you always have capital when the rest of the world is desperate for it. True wealth is silent, only the noise is loud. In structural engineering, a bridge is not designed to support its average daily load. It is designed with a factor of safety to survive the 100-year storm. Most individuals, however, design their financial lives with zero margin for error. They earn $8,000 and spend $7,900, creating a system so fragile that a single gust of wind, a medical emergency, or a temporary job loss causes a total structural collapse. The minimalist approach to finance is, at its core, an engineering solution to this fragility. To understand wealth in 2026, we must employ first principles thinking. We strip away the societal shoulds and look at the raw physics of money. Your investable surplus, the gap between what you earn and what you consume, is your potential energy. Just as water held behind a dam has the potential to generate massive amounts of electricity when released through a turbine, your unspent capital has the potential to generate massive compounding returns when channeled into productive assets. Every time you eliminate a non-essential expense, you are increasing the height of the dam, thereby increasing the pressure and power of your future wealth. The wealthy understand that complexity is a friction. In any mechanical system, the more moving parts you have, the higher the probability of failure. The individual with 6 credit cards, 4 checking accounts, and 3 different car loans is operating a high-friction machine. They waste cognitive energy merely managing the complexity. The minimalist analyst, conversely, seeks structural simplicity. By centralizing accounts, automating contributions, and adopting a one-card policy, you reduce the internal entropy of your life. Minimalism allows you to build a margin of safety that turns a global recession from a catastrophe into a liquidity event, an opportunity to buy high-quality assets at a discount while others are forced to sell. You aren't depriving yourself of a luxury lifestyle today. You are engineering a fortress of anti-fragility. When your life is lean, focused, and high-margin, you are no longer a victim of the economy. You are its architect. In the laws of thermodynamics, entropy is the measure of disorder or the decline of a system. In your personal economy, high-interest debt is the ultimate form of entropy. It is an energy-leaking crack in your financial dam. When you carry a balance on a credit card at a 22% interest rate, you are not just borrowing money. You are performing a value-destroying transaction. You are paying a massive premium for the privilege of consuming your future labor today. From a capital allocation perspective, this is a catastrophic failure of opportunity cost. The first rule of minimalism: eliminate toxic debt immediately, is not a moral suggestion. It is a mathematical mandate. If the market historically returns 10% annually, but your debt costs you 25%, you are in a state of negative compounding. You are running up a down escalator. Every dollar you pay in interest is a soldier of capital that has been permanently killed in action. That dollar will never work for you again. It will never earn dividends. It will never benefit from the eighth wonder of the world. To master this, we must apply the mental model of inversion. Instead of asking, how can I get rich? Ask, what is guaranteed to keep me poor? The answer is consumer debt. Financing furniture, electronics, or vacations is the act of trading your future freedom for present-day clutter. The minimalist understands that freedom begins the moment you cut those chains. By eradicating debt, you achieve a guaranteed return on investment. If you pay off a 20% interest card, you have effectively found an investment that pays a 20% risk-free return, something even Warren Buffett rarely finds in the open market. Furthermore, we must address the sunk cost fallacy. Many people continue to pay for premium debt-heavy lifestyles because they have already invested so much into their image. The rational investor cuts the loss. They sell the finance car, they cancel the luxury lease, and they reset to zero. They understand that a lean balance sheet is a fast balance sheet. In 2026, where the cost of capital has risen, your ability to live debt-free is your greatest competitive advantage. You are not restricting yourself, you are reclaiming your time from the banks. You are shifting from being a renter of capital to being an owner of capital. In the theater of modern finance, the word investment is often abused by those seeking a jackpot moment. To the rational analyst, buying a volatile asset in the hopes of selling it to a greater fool next week is not investing. It is entertainment. Real investment is the methodical allocation of capital into productive assets, businesses, land, or intellectual property that generate real-world value. The hallmark of the minimalist getting quietly rich is the psychological shift from being a consumer to being an owner. The primary driver of this wealth is the compounding engine. Charlie Munger famously described the first rule of compounding as never interrupt it unnecessarily. This sounds simple, but it is intellectually demanding. It requires you to overcome hyperbolic discounting, our biological urge to value a $100 steak today more than the $10,000 that same capital could become in the future. When you follow the minimalist rule of choosing quality over quantity, you aren't just buying better boots or a better laptop. You are preserving the seed capital that feeds your compounding engine. To succeed, you must operate within your circle of competence. Most people fail because they stray into areas they don't understand, chasing hot tips or complex derivatives. The minimalist investor, however, embraces the boring. They understand that a diversified portfolio of high-quality companies, held for decades, is the most proven wealth creation machine in history. They don't check their accounts daily because they aren't trading tickers. They are owning businesses. In 2026, the market is filled with noise, but the owner of production ignores the flickering red and green lights and focuses on the intrinsic value of what they own. We must also employ the mental model of time arbitrage. Most institutional players are focused on the next 90 days, the quarterly earnings report. If you can focus on the next 90 months, or even 90 years for your heirs, you have a massive structural advantage. You are an arbitrager of patience. While the crowd is panicked by short-term volatility, the minimalist remains stoic, knowing that as long as the underlying engine is productive, time will do the heavy lifting. If you have reached the stage where you find a consistent 8 to 10% return on a boring index fund more exciting than a 100% maybe on a speculative gamble, you have leveled up. You have moved from the impatience tax bracket to the patience dividend bracket. You are no longer working for money. You are building a system where the world's most efficient corporations are working for you. This is the engine of wealth. It starts slow, it looks uneventful for years, but eventually, the weight of the compounding becomes an unstoppable force for your freedom. In the age of digital influencers, passive income is often marketed as a life of effortless luxury. But to the value investor, passive income is simply the yield on invested capital. It is the mathematical result of a system you have built or bought. To understand this, we must employ systems thinking. Most people are trapped in a linear income model. They trade 1 hour of their life for a set amount of currency. This is inherently limited by the physics of time. You only have 24 hours in a day. Wealth, however, is built in the nonlinear model, where your income is decoupled from your physical presence. There are only two ways to generate true passive income. You must either own financial capital or intellectual digital capital. Both require a massive upfront loading of effort or money. When you receive a dividend or a royalty, you aren't being paid for doing nothing today. You are being paid for the risk you took and the consumption you deferred years ago. This is the delayed gratification mental model in its purest form. The sign that you are secretly getting rich is that you have stopped chasing side hustles that require more of your time and started building systems that require more of your discipline. You recognize that $100 in passive dividends is structurally superior to $200 in overtime pay. Why? Because the dividend has a zero marginal cost of production. It doesn't require your breath, your muscles, or your presence to exist. It frees up your most valuable asset, your cognitive surplus. As an analyst, I look for the crossover point, the moment your passive cash flow covers your basic survival expenses. This is the definition of financial autonomy. Once you reach this stage, work becomes a choice, not a necessity. But the trap most fall into is trying to reach the harvest without the planting. They look for shortcuts like high-yield scams or unsustainable passive schemes. The minimalist investor understands that passive income is a byproduct of capital allocation. You buy the machine, you maintain the machine, and the machine produces the output. If you are currently reinvesting every dollar of your passive income to buy more income-producing machines, you are in the exponential phase of wealth. You are not just earning money. You are building a self-sustaining ecosystem that will eventually grant you the ultimate luxury, the ability to own your time. The most sophisticated financial model in the world is useless if the human operating it is a slave to their impulses. In the discipline of psychology, we study the Lollapalooza effect, the convergence of multiple biases that drive us toward irrationality. For the modern consumer, this manifests as a cocktail of social proof, scarcity, and dopamine loops. When you see a limited time offer or a friend's new luxury purchase, your biological brain bypasses your analytical mind. The minimalist's defense against this is not willpower. It is a system. Rule 10, the 3-0 day waiting list for desires, is a masterclass in emotional detachment. By forcing a gap between the impulse and the transaction, you allow the hot emotional state to cool into a cold rational state. You move the decision from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. As an analyst, I look for decision quality. If a desire survives 30 days of scrutiny, it might be a legitimate need. If it vanishes, it was merely financial noise, a temporary spike in entropy that would have drained your potential energy. Furthermore, we must address social proof. Humans are tribal animals. We look to others to determine what is normal. If everyone in your circle finances a $60,000 vehicle, your brain concludes that a $1,000 monthly payment is normal. But the rational investor applies the inversion principle. Instead of asking, how can I fit in? Ask, what are the common behaviors of the broke majority? If the majority is over-leveraged and undersaved, then fitting in is a mathematical death sentence for your wealth. The sign that you are secretly getting rich is that you have stopped caring about signaling wealth and started caring about possessing wealth. You recognize that an expensive car is a loud signal of a shrinking asset, while a quiet index fund is a silent signal of a growing empire. You choose the latter because you value absolute autonomy over relative status. By limiting your information intake and unfollowing the influencer culture, you are effectively protecting your cognitive surplus. You are refusing to let the marketing departments of the world rent space in your head. When you own your attention, you own your life. The journey through these 20 minimalist rules is often framed as a path of less, but for the rational investor, it is a path of more clarity, more resilience, and ultimately, more time. We must apply the inversion principle to the concept of luxury. In a consumerist society, luxury is defined by what you can show, the high-status objects that signal your position in the hierarchy. But in the discipline of value investing, the only luxury that matters is what you can do, the ability to wake up and realize that your survival is no longer tied to a paycheck. When you eliminate toxic debt, simplify your home, and master your calendar, you are not just organizing. You are performing a strategic reallocation of human capital. You are moving your most precious resource, your attention, away from the entropy of maintenance and toward the growth of assets. Charlie Munger often noted that his wealth allowed him the independence to do what he wanted, when he wanted. This is the freedom mandate. It is the point where your potential energy finally becomes kinetic freedom. The sign that you have reached the summit of financial minimalism is that money has become background noise. You no longer do the mental math at every meal. You no longer stress over the car repair. You no longer fear the layoff. You have built a fortress that is anti-fragile. While the rest of the world is drowning in excess and noise, you are standing on the solid ground of precision. If you have implemented even 3 of these rules this week, you have started the engine. The path isn't always comfortable, but the math is undeniable. Wealth is not what you spend, it is what you keep, what you own, and the time you reclaim. Start today, refine every 6 months, and watch as your future self thanks you for the discipline of choosing less to eventually have everything.